Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Quarantine TV. I'm Dr. Hillary Lampert. This is my daughter, Tana. Tana, say hi. Today, we are going to plant some herbs, right, Tana?
Yeah, Mom.
Okay, you want to help me plant some rosemary?
Mom.
Yeah.
So, you said what else stores you want?
We cannot go to any stores today. This is really disrupting to Tana right now, but we cannot go to any stores. So what we're going to do is plant some plants so we have some herbs, right, to cook with this summer. The first thing we have is some rosemary. Rosemary is actually, I think it's my #1 favorite herb. It's great for brain health, memory, clear thinking, and it is also a great immune herb. You can put it in your food, you can make teas out of it. So we're just gonna replant these. We got these plants from our friend Sean at Frank's Little Farm in Missoula. And we're gonna replant these right now in these smaller pots. They're not huge, but just to help give them a little more room. And then once the weather gets a little bit nicer and it's not so cold out, we'll start thinking about planting them outside. So what we're gonna do, I have 3 of them here, is I took these out of, yeah. So I'm gonna take this here. We have a bowl of soil. As you can see, Tana is putting soil in her seedling things over here because we are gonna plant some herbs from seed. But I'm gonna take a little bit of our potting soil. This is organic starter potting soil. I'm gonna put a little bit in the bottom of this pot. And then I have I'm gonna kind of pull these roots a little bit to make them more active. And then we have a B1, vitamin B1 starter. Ryan uses this for starts and for transplanting as well. So we're gonna just kind of soak the roots in this to help it when it gets transplanted here. Now I'm doing this inside in my kitchen. I could do this outside on the deck. Today it's beautiful, but it's a little windy and cold out. So we just decided to do it in here. It's a little bit funner for the little one to help. And we just finished breakfast. And so this is our next project after this. You can wear gloves if you want. I'm bad about that. I don't wear gloves. I have gardener hands, so it's okay. And then I'm gonna put the soil in here. It's kind of messy looking right now. Take some water. Saturate it a little bit. You want to make sure when you transplant plants that you give them a good amount of water so that they can do that. You don't want to overwater them, but in the beginning, it's really good to make sure that they get that moisture so that their roots can set. So I'm going to go ahead and do this with our 3 other plants. Which is fun. Now we're going to take we have our small start here, and Tana and I are putting soil in each one of these. Okay. And today we're going to plant some basil, some thyme, some cilantro, some oregano. We're going to plant some tarragon. I think the most common things that all herbs have in common is they have lots of flavonoids, polyphenols, good essential oils, and they're all really good for the immune system. Especially when they're fresh, they have lots of good qualities, but when they're dried, they even have more medicinal value. So growing your own herbs and then drying them when you can't use all of them, especially if you live in a cold climate, and using them over the winter is a great way to get your immune support throughout the year, especially in the winter. Flatten all these out.
Mom, they're not all the way up.
We'll have to add some more. Oops. Sorry, babe. Planting seedlings is a great thing to do with kids. teaches them about plants. It makes them feel like they are actively taking a part in it. So we do this with our kids, and they have even their own little section in the garden that they plant and they get a harvest. And so here are all our little seedling starts. The one thing we don't have yet is a greenhouse. And I don't know, we might be putting one up this year with the craziness that's going on right now. Who knows what the economy holds, but we do have a really nice warm basement with lighting setups. That's what we use right now. We put all our starts down there and we get them going. Basil is a really common herb, I think, that everybody knows about. And you can use it for lots of different things. But basil has, the one thing with basil, when you plant it, the roots go really deep. So when you transplant from here, you want to make sure it's in some kind of container where the roots can grow really deep. So basil is really good for all kinds of intestinal ailments. It's a good antimicrobial. It's also antiparasitic. You can use it to help the spasm of the intestine. It's also been shown to protect your cells from free radical damage. And so we love basil here. Okay, so we're gonna do some basil. I have a blend of different basils here. The next one we're gonna plant some oregano. Oregano is by far my most favorite antimicrobial herb. It's very antifungal, and so we use it in a lot of fungal conditions of the intestine or the skin, etc. It's very fragrant, and it grows beautiful little flowers on it. So if it's outside, it does bring pollinators in. So when I talk about gut health as well, for those of you out there who've ever had giardia, oregano is probably the strongest thing to help with giardia. So great antimicrobial. Okay, so each seed goes in right in the middle. You're gonna put it right in the middle. And then put a little dirt on top of it. Did you get it in there?
Yeah.
You can put a couple in if you didn't get it all. These are tiny little seeds, these basil seeds. Here, I'll put some in my hand. There you go. Got little markers so I know. Do basil.
Do this one.
Oh, we got this one open. We're gonna do that one. I'm gonna do oregano. Okay, so did these all have some in them?
No.
Well, the little one has kind of gotten tired of it, so I'm gonna finish up. So I did add some water to these other ones. We use a vitamin mix. It's basically like a bee mix, like we did with the rosemary. It's a little bit more, and it helps the seeds to start. So I poured some of that on. I can't find my watering can, so I'm using this jar. The thing with herbs is that the seeds are super small. Like, tarragon's actually bigger than the other ones. The oreganos were almost so tiny you couldn't see them. I'm gonna do a little bit of cilantro and a little bit of thyme. Thyme and oregano are my favorite behind rosemary. I just like the smell of them. We had a huge thyme box at our garden in Washington. You can probably see some pictures of it in our dehydration guide. And then we also had a huge box of oregano. They were like perennials. They just came back every year. So we were really fortunate to have those. But here I'm kind of starting over with all that. So because thyme is a little bit hardier, I'm not going to plant as many. Again, the seeds are super small. But thyme can be a little bit hardier, so you may not have to plant as many and you get a lot more off of it. So there's my thyme. Just give it a little bit of starter water. Okay, and then I'm going to do 2 rows of the cilantro. Cilantro is an interesting herb because some people really love it and some people really hate it. So coriander is the other name that it has, and it's these probably, if you've baked with it, you've seen the seeds, not the flowers, I said that before, sorry, the seeds. You grind them up and they have a very distinct flavor of their own. These are probably the biggest ones to plant here compared to all the other ones. So like most of the other spices, it's a superb spice for healing. And it's great for our anxiety and antimicrobial as well. So when I say antimicrobial, it means antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. So anything that affects our bodies like that, like the coronavirus, which is a virus, it helps to fight those things. So of course, having fresh herbs and or dried herbs in your diet is really important. When I traveled, I used to travel to Turkey for work, and they would have these big open air spice markets in Turkey, in Istanbul. They were absolutely amazing. The herbs and the variety and the spices, the smells. I actually would buy my loose leaf stevia there, and they grow it it's just like buying leaves of stevia. I buy big bushels of it, and that's what I would use to sweeten my tea, and a big bushel of stevia would last me well over a year. So I just absolutely love going to the spice markets there. And I say that's probably one thing about the States and or here that we don't have, are these very like abundant markets that have fresh spices and dried spices as well. But absolutely love that. I experienced that in Russia too when I worked there. But it is good enough for me to feel like we're gonna have plenty of, hopefully if these grow well, we water them and they get some good light. Right now I'll just make sure that they're in a warm spot and they're well watered. And then we'll just follow these plants as they grow. And learning more about becoming sustainable, growing your own food, and being healthier in this very interesting time. Thanks for watching.